G'day ladies and germs, Connor here from CDubs Media, back with another video, and today we're doing my 1 year review of the iPhone 14 Pro. So without further ado, hit the like button and the subscribe button, and let's get stuck into my video. This is a good phone and it's stood the test of a year. There's been some updates that have made it better. Is it worth getting today, or should you wait for the 15 Pro, the 15 Pro Max? Now, I just want to point out that before I got the iPhone 14 Pro, I was like, should I really get it? I know there's so many things I'm not going to like about it. So many things are going to piss me off big time. But I was like, no. You got to be fair. Now, to get the gold version, 256 gig, I just liked the way it looked, and it goes with the band of the Ultra Watch that I got. I got that yellow Trail Mix one, or Trail Blazer, whatever it's called. So they look good together. And one of the things that strikes me most about the iPhone 14 Pro is the build. The look, the design, it still looks amazing 1 year later. And I have to say that they really refined this look. I don't know if they're going to change this much for the 15, but just those sharp, chamfered edges, the nice corners on it, the flat back on the glass and the front, really, really nice display. In my opinion, really nice build quality. I think the camera hump is just shit because it's like lopsided. If it's on your desk and you're trying to type or unlock it, it's going to wobble side to side. That's one area where Google mastered that. That camera visor that goes across the back of the Pixel phones is brilliant. It just stops all of that rocking. And another reason I don't like it is because I have to use a case to give it a flat surface. And this phone does not deserve a case. It just looks amazing. The edges, the glass, the color, everything, it looks and feels 1,000,000%. So I don't want to put it in a case. And what's also amazing is having that MagSafe charging or MagSafe on the back. I don't need to put a case on it to use it in my car mounts and stuff like that. It's just brilliant how they've incorporated that into their devices. So it's still there in the 14 Pro, and really is one of the standout things is the build and design. So it is a steel frame, and you do have glass front and back, which does give it that IP68 rating as well, which I do like having. Look, I don't put my phones underwater, but I don't want to get caught out when I'm out running and just lose a phone. So the fact that it's got IP68 keeps it up there with the rest of the flagships. 460 ppi display, 1000 nit brightness with a 2000 nit peak brightness, and the battery is 3200 milliamp hour. And that is one of the best things about Apple, 3200 milliamp hour. I'm a heavy user and I get like a day and a half to 2 days use out of it. Now on my Google phone, I don't get one full day, and I think Apple deserves mega props for that. I really appreciate how they've managed that battery life in with their software and their power consumption. It's pretty dope. Now that display leads me into having an always on display. Now my daughter's got the 13 Pro Max and she doesn't have it. She can't get it through updates. She's pissed. She wants that always on display. And it just reminded me of how far behind Apple can get sometimes, because in the world of Android, people have had always on display for what feels like a decade. And I'm going to say at least half a decade, but potentially 10 years that feature has been around, and it's just been amazing. It's just so part of my life that getting the iPhone 14 Pro, I just assumed and forgot that Apple hasn't had it for very long at all. So it's just an area where I think they need to lift their game. And the always on display, although handy, still needs a lot of improvements to catch up and offer the features that other manufacturers offer. But it looks pretty awesome. I really do like it. Now, dynamic island, floating island, dynamic window, whatever you want to call it, it looks pretty cool. I do like it. It pops up at the most unusual times when I'm not expecting it, like if I'm playing a podcast. The podcast is playing in the background, but I can just see a little waveform and a little symbol of the podcast app playing in that little dynamic island as well. I like having it. Same if I'm playing music, then it's there as well. You'd be surprised how many times something pops up in that dynamic island, and I definitely think it is a nice little feature, and I'm so glad they finally got rid of that intrusive bucket on the top of the iPhone for most devices anyway. Be good to see them get rid of it forever. I mean, all the other devices in the world have got these little pinhole cameras and stuff like that. Nice to see the dynamic island, big improvements, and I like the implementations within the app. Now I am currently running iOS 16.6. We have an A16 Bionic chip in here, and we only have 6 gigabytes of RAM. I know it's 120 Hz refresh rate on the display, and I do appreciate that that's in there, but it doesn't feel as smooth to me as some other devices that I've used. Sorry fans, but it just doesn't. I mean, I think one area where I see Apple falling way behind is with the software. They do seem to have had their software refined to working well with battery life and getting like 2 days out of your battery, but when it comes to functionality and smart features, it just seems to be struggling to keep up. And I think this could be the future downfall of Apple, is when people actually start to realize what you can do with other devices and how intuitive other devices are, because the iPhone 14 Pro sure as fuck ain't intuitive, I can tell you that much. So it's frustrating. The software, it's slow, it's clunky, and I guess one way of describing it is I just want to be able to see my notifications with one tap on my device. I don't want to have to like climb up the display with my thumb to drag down the notification panel and then see my notifications. That's fraught with danger for dropping devices. Now I know there's the shortcut where you swipe down on the bottom of the display and then you go back up halfway up your display and swipe down and then you get your notifications. But that's really fucking clunky, man. Like, that's stupidly thought out. It's double handling. In most cases you might need 2 hands to navigate that safely. It's just really old school thinking, and I'd like to see Apple lift their game when it comes to software. I think it's crap, I really do. Now, it's not saying it's all bad. It is fairly smooth and it is nice to use. I do like the implementation of Apple Pay. I think that is a lot easier than Android Pay or Google Wallet. I seem to struggle with that at times, but Apple Pay seems to work perfectly. And I think that comes down to a lot of the time the Face Unlock feature. It just works brilliantly. Really, really does. A lot better than any Android phone that I've used. So I'm getting a lot of pros and cons here. It's just a shame that that software is so buggy for a lot of other situations. And, you know, like going back on the iPhone, I have wanted to smash this phone a million times. Like, I just want to swipe back on my display and have it go back. And sometimes it just won't. And then I have to press in the top left-hand corner, that little symbol that's hard to hit. You know, other apps you need to swipe down to get rid of something or swipe sideways. But Apple fans are just like, no, it's perfect. Don't point it out to me. So it's an interesting little world. Those blue bubbles maybe have something to do with it. But it's not unusable, and I think that if you're a real Apple fan, you're going to love it. You're never going to sway from it. So from that point of view, it's probably perfect for you. But for me, it's not. It's full of problems. But we have widgets. The apps work. Gaming on it has been a lot of fun as well. I do appreciate that. You won't find a game that's going to trip up the iPhone 14 Pro. It is built to perform, and it performs amazingly. Okay, next we're going to talk about the camera. And I've got my notes here because it's just a lot to remember. But the main camera is a 48 megapixel camera. It's 24mm equivalent with an f1.8, which is probably equals to like an f5.6 or something like that. Then you have a 12 megapixel telephoto and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. And for video, I much prefer the iPhone over, say, the Pixel phone, or over, say, a Samsung device or Oppo. Alright, this is the rear-facing camera, and I do think that the iPhone 14 Pro certainly holds up even a year after its release. Video is up there with the best when it comes to phone video. Certainly better than a Pixel when it comes to video. Maybe not photo, but definitely when it comes to video. You've got the ultra wide, the wide, and the telephoto lens. Telephoto is a little bit to be desired, but still one of the best. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Does your Galaxy phone better? Is your Pixel better? What are your thoughts on this? I actually really do think this is up there, and I'm not a iPhone dude. I'm a Pixel dude, but you got to give credit where it's due. It's one of the most easy cameras to use and gives some of the best results. Rear-facing video, iPhone 14 Pro. And this is the front-facing video on the iPhone 14 Pro. And again, it looks really good. 1 year old, still holding its own. Highlights aren't blown out, shadows aren't too dark. Stabilization could be a little bit better, but I like what I'm seeing here. Colors are good. Not too oversaturated. Pretty good reflection of reality. Maybe I look a little bit soft in the skin. That's not bad though, that's good. It hides my age. iPhone 14 Pro, front-facing camera, 4K 24 frames per second. The video quality on the Apple iPhone 14 Pro is up there. It's definitely the top two, I'd say, of smartphones. Now for photos, it's definitely up there as well. I'm going to say like top three, and it does also come down to personal preference. It seems to get the colors right in most situations, and it's pretty much automatic. Like you pointed at a landscape, it'll adjust for that. Pointing at food, it'll adjust for that. Portraits and selfies, it's got those features as well, and does amazing, as you can see through all these photos. I would prefer, I think for photos, the Pixel phone has just so much better photos and so much better options when it comes to photography and editing features that you just don't get on Apple. It just doesn't come close in terms of like the background removal or focus retouching. I do think that Apple's lacking that, but in terms of point and shoot, smartphone camera, it's up there in top three easily. Like it's Google Pixel and Samsung are up there, and I would prefer the Google, but I'm happy with the Apple iPhone 14 Pro. I think anyone would be. Not many people can test out different phones and decide which one's better or which one's worse. They're just going to buy this, you're going to use it, and you're going to be really, really impressed with the quality of the photos and the video. Now it also has cinematic mode, which is really well done and much better than on the Android devices. I think Samsung and Google really struggle there. Apple seems to have implemented it really nicely. So I've got to say, I'm really, really impressed with the iPhone 14 Pro. I do think it is definitely, like, I don't think you need to wait for the 15. If you can get a bargain on the 14, just go out and grab it. Like, it's not going to be a massive upgrade to the 15. I really don't think it is. Not from a consumer point of view. Maybe from a tech reviewer or an absolute, if you're an Apple obsessed fan and you must have the latest and greatest, whatever, get the 15 Pro or the 15 Pro Max. But I don't think you can go wrong. The 14 Pro, it's still a very good contender late in 2023, and if I was an Apple fan, I'd stick with it. But you know what, I'm going overseas very soon, and I'm choosing to take the Pixel 7 Pro over the iPhone 14 Pro purely because of that photography and the smart features and the offline translation features and just this intuitive way that Google works. I'm definitely going to leave the Apple iPhone 14 Pro at home. So that probably sums it up. And I think if you're a hardcore Android user, you'd probably come to the same conclusions as me. If you're a hardcore Apple user, you're stuck in the blue bubbles and you'll never ever listen to what I've just said. That's probably, who cares? Anyway, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you've got this far, you deserve a medal, and I'm stoked that you watched the whole video. So thank you, and I will catch you in the next one. Check out.